Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. Lots of debate over the last few days as to how good exactly Sentinels are going to be on the international stage for the upcoming season. FNS implied the other day that they're top 3 in the world as they're playing right now. He now doubles down on that take in response to some of the criticism around it, saying that as the way they're playing at the moment, sure, they're in that category. Whether they can maintain it, that's a different story entirely. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. This is pretty cool as well from Execute and King, of course. Execute on T1. King recently released, potentially going to DRX. That's the rumor going around at the moment. That may be a return for King to DRX. Could be on the cards after the recent changes they made. One to keep your eyes on over the coming days for sure. We will also talk in a few minutes a little bit about the NRG situation, what we could expect over the next couple of days. But I will say that this tweet from Comrades about parting ways with evil geniuses or parting ways with his old teammate, I don't really know, has raised questions as well about whether if everyone on EG is gone, if all the players are gone, if all the, everyone's going to other teams, what about Potter, right? Or just the coaching staff over there in general? We know that Zix, right, their assistant coach, has gone to has gone from Evil Geniuses to 100 Thieves as their head coach. So everyone is gone, but Potter is there to stay. And Potter did a tweet yesterday about, the LAN tournament opportunities only happen 2 to 3 times a year. To show up and compete for the first place prize and say we didn't practice coming in, but your full team comes in, but their fifth is ringing, what's going on? So she's talking about some of the frustrations and also some of the question marks about other teams, but also wonder, would Potter get an opportunity elsewhere as well? Because if those players are getting lowball in the contract negotiations and basically being told, all right, guys, well, we can only pay you half, so, maybe you want to go elsewhere, and if you try to, we won't sell you. So unlucky. But then maybe they did eventually sell a couple of the guys to NRG. If all of those guys are gone, and the rumor has it that their entire team is brand new, I don't even know if Com is there anymore, I don't know if Jorgamo's there anymore, we know that Boostio's gone, we know that Demon 1 we think is gone, and we definitely know that Ethan is gone, based on the rumors over the last couple of days, and their coaching staff is being shut down, so it's why is Potter still there? Has Potter not got an offer from another team? There's been people saying, oh, Potter should go to DRX and stuff like this, which maybe is valid, but it's interesting, right, that everyone's gone, but Potter stays, and it's kind of sad for Potter that she has to rebuild a brand new project after winning Coach of the Year by, all accounts, the most recent season. So we'll see about that. Mainly, I guess other teams have their coaches already, right, so they don't need to think about it, but it's one to think about. I will say, though, FURIA, GE, loads of interesting teams all around the world right now that might need a bit of help in certain regards. So we saw this conversions tournament go down. It's funny how it works, right, because Global Esports kind of got slammed by Vitality, and then there were so many people on Twitter saying, oh, this team's terrible, blow it up, it's time to go, these guys are awful, let's go full Indian team or whatever, and, it's first series, you can't read too much into it, and it's an off-season tournament at the end of the day anyway. They then have to play FURIA, which is on paper, and also a very challenging game, if not even more challenging. Brand new, of course, Brazilian team. We'll get into that in a second. Pretty funny as well how in yesterday's video, Gen.G had just beaten Esports 1-0, or they were just up 1-0 after beating them 13-4 in Haven. And I was like, oh, okay, looks like Gen.G maybe are on for the victory. I guess that was their map pick. Ascent then went the other way 13-6, and then Lotus was a 14-12 absolute bloodbath where Esports take the win. So competitive series. Esports get the victory over Gen.G, which puts them through to kind of the grand finals on the main event of Convergence. So, pretty good to see. It's interesting, of course, with CNED, just to have a look at how his raise is getting on, because you see this a lot now with guys that were Jet players and still are Jet players in CNED's case, as we can see, but are also using on the raise. You can't just be a Jet main 24/7 now like you used to be able to see. You have to use the raise, and this is where Sentinels have a lot of strength in depth, because Zekken can do that very well. Really good at the raise, really good on the Jet. And now Tens, of course, is, sure, Tens can still use the op if needed, but now Tens is, on the smokes or on basically whatever he wants to use. The breach, but recently he's been on the Omen a lot. Kind of crazy stuff, but this is where guys like CNED and guys like Ardis, for example, and even guys like Ye need to ensure that they're versatile players. Tens has very much shown that he is, but he's not even just versatile in that duelist role, he's versatile elsewhere. And that's what CNED is here to, that's not what CNED is here to do, but he does need to have a good raise, and he had a good series here. So 29 and 20 here on the final map to get for Esports over the line. But as I say, the other series, Global Esports versus FURIA, this was a 2-1 bang out again. And yeah, it's funny how it works out, right? Blaze King had that crazy ace. It's an interesting team for sure, Global Esports. They didn't have a great first series against Vitality, but Vitality also then went on to beat FURIA pretty comfortably. And FURIA is a weird team, right? I mean, it's questions as to what this team should do. I know people have also mentioned, we're going to discuss Sentinels in a second. What about Pancada, right? I mean, people have linked Pancada, if he wants to go back to Brazil, to a team like FURIA, maybe. And, you know, you can argue the merits of whether Liazzi and the way that he's running the smokes is really a problem, but didn't have a great series here, did he? So Mozera, by the way, plus 27 on the Neon and on the Jet. 76 frags over 3 maps. Like, this is pretty absurd from Mozera. Like, game 1 they lost, he went 29 and 14 on the Neon. Like, you know, what more do you want from my boy, right? So I think there's questions really on FURIA as to whether they need a bit more firepower, a bit more star power, and maybe Pancada could provide that if he was, you know, eager, let's say, to go back to a Brazilian team rather than stay on Sentinel's substitute bench. But I think either way, it might be a good decision. But Global Esports win map 1. They lost the map 2 14-12 after an overtime, and then Haven went 13-11. So it's a really competitive series. Mozera did his best, basically every single map here to get them over the line. Polvi had a great final map of the series as well. And Global Esports with a big comeback. I mean, look at this. Down 7, was this 8-1 on the start of the final map, and then to come back and win it. You know, good ice from Global Esports to one of those attacking rounds in a row. So they get over the line, and no doubt a good victory here for Global Esports. You know, home team victory over FURIA in some ways. Lots for FURIA to think about, to be honest, right? Like the way this series went, they have got to think, all right, what do we do going forwards? Because this was a very questionable way to lose, and Mozera carrying quite that hard. But lots of support, of course, for the Global Esports boys as a result of this. So we'll see if it works, right? At the end of the day, you know, people overreact both ways. They lose their first series to Vitality, people say, I'll blow it up, team's terrible. They beat FURIA, people say, oh, these guys, fantastic, best in the world, they're going to be, you know, going to get at international events, which I think either way, it's too early to really give any particular statement on it. But yeah, this big round here from Blaze King, of course, 11-11 on the final map of the series, to get them to 12-11, of course, close out the series is very impressive. So right about now, let me hit the refresh on this. We have Vitality versus Esports going down in what is effectively the final, really. So these two teams topped their respective groups. Global Esports won the series against FURIA, but because they lost to Vitality, and Vitality beat both of those teams, they made the finals. Esports made the finals the other way, and they're currently going at it. Ascent, Sunset, Lotus, Haven split to see who's going to be the champion of Convergence 2023. But let's talk Sentinels, because, you know, we've seen lots of questions on how good these teams are going to be. Every single tournament that happens, there's going to be talk on, okay, is it off season? Doesn't matter much. But the biggest tournaments by a margin so far has been the Africa TV tournament. That's the one that I think people took most seriously anyway. You know, it was a big event, but fundamentally it was an off-season event. But there was big teams there, PaperX, DRX, etc., etc. And after the fact, we had FNS, you know, saying a lot on the Sentinels team, how good they were, how much they impressed him during the tournament. And I think we mentioned, I mean, the clips we shared of FNS talking about this the other day, I think he made it quite clear, to be honest, that he believes they were top 3 team Sentinels with the way they're currently played. But he did say at the time, and we shared the clips at the time, that whether they can maintain that is the question. But people, of course, have, you know, taken that to say, oh, FNS says they're top 3 for sure and everything. And then, you know, of course, that clip then goes to Sideshow. And Sideshow then said, well, you know, maybe top 3 in the off-season, but they have 3 maps they're not good at, so they can't possibly be top 3 in the world. And there's been some debate on this either way. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter until the season starts. That's when the results actually come through. But FNS kind of doubles down and says, look, as far as he's concerned, the way they played, their movement, you know, their strats, everything like this, was at a level that will get them to top 3 next season. Not exactly regardless of how good the other teams are, but, you know, if the other teams are as good as you might expect them to be, Sim will be top 3 internationally with that type of performance. Of course, the question is, could they actually do this again?
Their form is top 3. And I said, I don't know if they can maintain their form. Not that they're going to be top 3 all year throughout the whole next year. Actually, I said the opposite. I said, I don't think they'll be able to maintain this form for the entire next year. And I think Sam said something similar to that as well. Now, there's a difference between form and actually, you know, like just form in certain tournaments compared to just a year-round situation. I didn't say Sentinels is going to win everything for real. And if I did, I was obviously joking. But there are too many good teams, in my opinion, for Sentinels to just keep up this form consistently. I'm not getting mad at Sideshow here because, or anyone that disagrees. That's not what I'm saying. What's misunderstood about what what I said was that a lot of people think that I'm saying Sentinels is currently a top 3 team, regardless of map pool, regardless of any of that. But what I'm saying is they're playing at a top 3 level form. So that's the misconception. Now, by that, I mean their rotations, their ability to execute into bomb sites, their mid-round situations, their ability to be proactive in the mid-round, whether it be defense or attack, their ability to win rounds they should never be in. For example, those crazy eco rounds. Those are the things that you need in order to be a top team. So they're headed in the right direction. Now, that doesn't mean they are going to stay that way, right? Now, that's the part that's difficult. To do it in one event is easy. To do it in 3, 4 events throughout the whole year and to do it in every single match, that maintaining it is difficult. So that was my point. That was the clarification I wanted to give.
So I think the main issue that I would say for Sentinels is that this is not the time that you want to look the best necessarily. Going into this season, we'd have expected Sentinels to be pretty good, but I don't think we expected them to be good enough to win a tournament like that against, they beat PaperX, DRX in the group, didn't lose a series. They've won like 10 series in a row now in all the tournaments they've played. So that's very impressive. But going into next year, most teams are looking at Fnatic. They're looking at PaperX in terms of preparation, in terms of meta, in terms of strategy, and all this type of stuff. So I think the issue that Sen have is that they've got to kind of stay ahead of the game. They've got to stay innovating, and now people kind of know what Tens likes to do. You've got to analyze his VODs that he played at the Africa TV tournament. And I don't think that a couple of months ago, anyone was looking at Sentinels VODs and thinking, okay, these are the guys we've got to really learn how they play to try and beat them next season. But it always happens with the teams that are the best, right? The better teams. Everybody looks at them. Everyone tries to figure out what they're doing, how we can potentially beat them and all this stuff. So I think that's the challenge for Sentinels because they won this Africa TV tournament, before the new season begins, all of the teams in the Americas are going to be looking at Sentinels. They're going to be thinking, okay, let me watch these VODs, let me figure out what they were doing and try and find a way to, counter them, or, exactly, could we take any of those ideas for our own game? It's stuff like this that makes it so difficult to maintain a level. They can play at this same level again, but they need to keep adapting and improving and refining and innovating if they want to retain that level. So I think that's the point that FNS is getting across. But, it doesn't take away the fact that they played at that level most recently. I mean, okay, they didn't play the final 2 maps of the series, like the Ascent or the Haven, whatever it was, that it would have potentially been up against PaperX, but they still 3-0'd them, which is, not many teams get the 3-0 PaperX. Just quickly on the NRG situation as well, we did see Chet kind of say, it's finally time, the Infinity Stones have been collected. I kind of expected an announcement on this maybe yesterday, but it's got to be coming soon at this point, right? And Chet kind of clarifies that, things are happening. He doesn't want to say too much about it, of course. We did also see this tweet when NRG Ethan became a thing for the first time back in April. Okay, not for the first time because he was there on the CS days, but at least in Valorant, he was on NRG Valorant April 22nd, 2022. And George says, this is insane. Only one more to announce now. So, okay, George hasn't outright leaked it because, he does some things for organizations now, a bit of a conflict of interest. Maybe he doesn't necessarily want to say too much publicly, but I think that he said all that he needs to say, really, right? I mean, he's replied to this tweet trying to bait people into thinking, oh, NRG Ethan, it's official, and it's probably going to be official again, and then only one more to announce, of course, more than likely referring to the Demon 1 situation, which we expect to be resolved in relatively short order. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.